Soma Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Welcome everyone to this sanctuary. We've come to take shelter from the onslaught of the three modes of material nature, the three miseries, Adi Atmic, Adi Bautik, Adi Daivik. Constantly we're afflicted in the material world, and we need shelter. And prayer is a form of taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those with no faith sometimes criticize the power of prayer. They try to analyze it logically and say, but you prayed and maybe you didn't get the result that you asked for, therefore there's no God, and so forth. But those who actually have faith and pray deeply feel the reciprocation for themselves. Pratyaksha-vagamam dharmyam, the perfection of religion, Krishna says, is directly perceived, is that which is directly perceived by the person who's engaged in the process. And where'd that come from? Is it already gone in there? Don't use it then. All right. Use something else. Just use that book stand and not that. Upasana means worship. Asana means to sit. We're all sitting. And upa means close. So this meaning, how to sitting closer, really means how to come closer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the original light. He is the self of ourself. And the means by which we come closer to Him, we actually can feel His light, then we can feel His reciprocation. This is upasana. And prayer is one of the forms of upasana, of worship. And as we mentioned on Wednesday night, it's a universal process because all human beings, sometimes animals, because we did mention Gajendra, it's the natural instinct of the soul to connect to God. So nitya sambandha, prakritischa paraivasa. We're the same category as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same quality. And we have an eternal kinship with the Lord. That is the satisfying situation for every living entity, to be situated in that mode of kinship and reciprocation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that comes about through prayer. And as we'll learn today, by following the footsteps of the great Vaishnavas, advanced devotees, those who have tread the path of pure devotion and have successfully overcome the anartas, the unwanted things within the heart which are obstacles to our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as those eternal associates of the Lord who have never fallen into the material world, and who Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, as those who are, there's Shara and the Akshara, those who are fallible and the infallible. The Lord has associates who are on the perfect platform, who also offer prayers. And in our system of devotional service, we follow in the footsteps of these advanced devotees, whether they're sadhana siddhas, or kripa siddhas, or nitya siddhas. In the end, siddha is siddha. It doesn't matter how you got there. Prabhupada said that. Whether you're nitya siddha, or sadhana siddha, or kripa siddha, siddha is siddha. And we hear from this Brahma Samhita, when Krishna was giving instructions to Brahma Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam bhaja vishvasan yadrishi shraddha siddhir bhavati tadrishi. This siddhi, this perfection, as we increase our faith, we come closer and closer to Krishna. Actually, we're made of our faith. Krishna says in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And yesterday, Nirkula and I were listening to Prabhupada saying that no one moves without faith. You don't get in an airplane unless you have faith that they're going to take you to the place they say they're going to take you to. You just trust them. I don't know who's in the cockpit. I have no idea. I just trust United Airlines for some strange reason. And every move we make, we have faith. The spiritual world is the world of faith. As one great sadhu once said, it is the world of faith. And everything moves on faith. Shreya kanta parama purusha kalpataravo druma bhumish chintamani ganamai toyam amritam kataganam natyam gamanam api vamshi priyasaki chidanandam jyoti paramapi taraswadyam api cha. This description of the spiritual world is full of dance, rhythm, music, and the joyful movements of the living entities there. Their speech comes out as song and perfect meter. Even in Vraj, as the gopis are churning the butter, making ghee and so forth, churning the yogurt, their bangles are moving in time with their churning. And this mixes with their songs as they're absorbed in thinking of Krishna and separation, and they're churning the milk. Then that sound, the rhythm and the melodious sound of their voices mixes together and purifies the whole creation. And so the sounds of the prayers of the great devotees who are absorbed in love for Krishna is a purifying vibration. And we'll investigate today the different categories of prayers. It's amazing how many different feeling types of prayers there are. And of course, a prayer should be feeling. Otherwise, it becomes simply an utterance made out of obligation by cultural momentum. I may say so many prayers and not know what they mean. And a simple prayer which is uttered out of purity and with full feeling is better than an eloquent prayer in perfect Sanskrit or whatever language, Latin. We go to the Catholic Church, I think they do their prayers in Latin. Catholics, can we have a confirmation? I'm looking at Nirkula. Don't know any other Catholics in here. Can you sing any Latin prayers? No? If you think of them, let us know. They're beautiful. You go to any church, in mosques, there's the call to prayer you hear in India. Of course, you'd hear it a lot more in Pakistan or any of the Muslim countries where there's a call for prayer several times a day. How many times a day? 5 times a day. Yeah, at Govardhan, somehow there's a mosque out there, and we can hear this call for prayer. It's a good idea. And we have our Sandhya Vandanam, where 3 times a day, we stop everything and sit down and pray. Who wants to do that? No, I don't have time. Too busy. Moving on. I have to make money. What you talking? You make money. But stopping and praying and thinking about what we're praying and feeling it from the heart is yoga. It's actual connection with Krishna when we do that. And sometimes it may not be so easy. One may notice that Sandhya Vandanam is easier in the morning time when the sun is just coming up and there's free nectar floating in the air. You don't have to pay anything for it. You barely even have to try. You just sit there and you can meditate and your mind can go right to Krishna. In the afternoon, maybe a little more difficult. There are more urgent matters. You've already got 32 emails that came in since the sun rose. And to actually sit down and concentrate the mind may be more difficult, and so forth. And so there are times during the day which are ideal for prayer. Ideally, as Krishna says in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we should continually think of him. In many other places he says, Ananya Cheta Satatam. Always absorb your mind in me with no other consideration. But we can't do that. I can't do that. Therefore, there's a way in which he says, follow the rules and regulations of devotional service until you come to that point. And so there are times during each day. There are times during each week. There are times during each month. Times during each year. Times during each lifetime, in the lifetime, that we should take time out to absorb ourselves through contemplation, through prayer. And we have to experience it for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll be reabsorbed into the flow of thoughts, desires, and actions in the material world. Unless we develop an inner life ourselves, we have to be absorbed. The advancement that we get comes from our absorption. And that we must arrange. As Rupa Goswami says, you should arrange your life. This is the essence of all advice, so that you can pray. If you can't pray, if you don't have a place to pray where you can do so successfully, if you don't have a time set up during the day when you can pray successfully and be absorbed, upasana means you sit down and you come closer to Krishna, then where's the question of advancement? If I say prayers unfeelingly or out of rote or out of obligation, without thinking about them, without actually performing upasana, which means sitting in the asana and coming closer to the Lord. Not necessarily that you have to sit. You can stand or dance also, but the absorption must be there. You must come closer. You have to feel it for yourself. This is advancement in spiritual life. You have to get it. So prayer makes this accessible. A simple prayer uttered from the heart is always successful. And as Gajendra says in his prayers to the Lord is never inattentive. He's never lazy. He's always observing the living entity, and as the Upanishads say, as one bird is the eating bird in the tree and the other bird is the observing tree, the eating bird is the jiva, who is in the material world with the idea that there's something in it for him, and he's trying to enjoy the various fruits of the material world. And the Lord is the witnessing bird. And all he's asking for, really, is some bhakti, some feeling from the living entity. And then there's rasa, then there's bhakti. There's that connection. And this can be attained by anyone, anywhere, under any circumstances. If Gajendra could attain perfection, or pleased, means pleasing the Lord. If Krishna is satisfied by our prayers, then we'll feel satisfaction because we're part and parcel of Krishna. If Krishna is satisfied by the service that we do, by the prayer that we offer, then we'll feel satisfaction. Bhaktya tutosha bhagavan gajayutapaya means that Gajendra satisfied the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj certified it. He said Gajendra satisfied the Lord. And when did he pray? When he had a crocodile stuck to his leg. So you can pray at any time. Sometimes we hear when the plane is going down, people really start praying. And George Harrison talked about that. He was on an airplane and the plane started going down. And he started screaming the Hare Krishna mantra. Everyone thought, we're going down. This is the last minute. But if we can remember that the plane is already going down. Not that we're in a hyper state at every second, but if we can actually through contemplation, remember that I'm on an airplane going down into the ocean right now, and keep it a constant, steady state of prayer within our mind and heart, then this is yoga, and this is the perfection of devotional service, to have that connection with the Lord. The other day when we were asking for verses, I guess it was when we were in Philadelphia, I was asking devotees in the room while we were waiting for prasadam to recite verses about the holy name, and Madhukari gave Apana samsritim gauram yannama vivishogranan tatasadyo vimucheta yabhipeti swayambayam. That the holy name is all powerful. It's Krishna himself. He's feared by fear personified, and anyone at any time can take advantage of the holy name to be connected to Krishna, to be protected, to be reconnected. Apana samsritim gauram yannama vivishogranan. Can you look the verse up? Just probably in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Page 156. Who said that? Malini. You a big fan of the verse? Huh? Or photographic memory? Apanaha means being entangled, samsritim, in the hurdle of birth and death. Gauram, too complicated. How's it sound so far? Familiar? Just the words, apanaha, being entangled, samsritim, in the hurdle of birth and death. Gauram, too complicated. Yet, what? Nama, the absolute name. So here we are, entangled in the complicated meshes of repeated birth and death. And who comes to our rescue? The name of Krishna. Vivashaha, unconsciously, granan, chanting, tata. From that, sadhya, at once, vimucheta, gets freedom. Yet, that which, bipeti, fears, swayam, personally, payam, fear itself. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. I noticed that our Damodar Vamsidhari always has the name of Jagannath on his lips, ready to go. We were sitting in the temple room one day, and something fell from the wall and made a crash, and he said, "Oh, Jagannath!" And wherever we are, something moves in the wrong way. He's like, "Jagannath!" He's always ready with Jagannath. So we should. This is the state of the residents of Vrindavan. Forest fire comes, they say, "Krishna, Krishna." This is our only recourse. We can't be protected any other way except taking shelter of the name. So the name is the ultimate prayer. Name is the ultimate prayer, and we should align ourselves with the name. No one else, nothing else. Shukadeva Goswami says that all other forms of protection are simply fallible soldiers, taking shelter of fallible soldiers. But the name is real. The name is eternally all-powerful and all-merciful and so forth. So our major prayer, Jiva Goswami says, especially in Kali Yuga, when all the other kinds of mantras and prayers that we utter from the Vedas, we do it all wrong. We make all kinds of mistakes. It's inevitable. Nobody's trained in Kali Yuga. Nobody has time to do it right. The atmosphere is so polluted that whatever kinds of Vedic rites, rituals, anything that you perform, even deity worship, it must be preceded and followed by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That makes everything perfect. And that's required. Only one thing required in Kali Yuga. Everything else is optional. So, as we move forward hearing about prayer, we can remember the simplest form of prayer given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking shelter of the name of Krishna. Oh, Jagannath! Oh, Jagannath. Look at this, how beautiful. Vishaka Leela made this. Now, we're going to describe various kinds of prayers which are delineated in this beautiful book called Sri Prarthana by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And he lists here 10 kinds of prayers, 10 different categories of prayers which are famous in the Vaishnava canon. And so the first one, we see here a picture of the demigods offering prayers to Lord Krishna within the womb of Devaki. This comes in the 10th canto, 2nd chapter. And these are very famous prayers. Samprarthanatmika, which means words of direct prayer to the Lord. And this is a sample. If you'd please get me the 10th canto, 2nd chapter. O Supreme Controller, your Lordship previously accepted incarnations as a fish, a horse, a tortoise, Nrsingadev, a boar, a swan, Lord Ramachandra, Parusharam, and among the demigods, Vamandev, to protect the entire world by your mercy. Now please protect us again by your mercy, by diminishing the disturbances in this world. O Krishna, best of the Yadus, we respectfully offer our obeisances unto you. So there are many cases we'll find in the Srimad Bhagavatam when the devotees are offering prayers directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is the first category, 10-40. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In every incarnation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a particular mission to execute. And this was true in his appearance as the son of Devaki in the family of the Yadus. Thus all the demigods offered their prayers to the Lord, bowing down before him, and requested the Lord to do the needful. We cannot order the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do anything for us. We can simply offer him our obeisances as advised in Bhagavad Gita. Manmana pavanmad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, and pray to him for annihilation of dangers. So this we can cultivate, that the Supreme Lord is wonderful in all respects. And there are thousands and thousands of these prayers that address him and his qualities and glorify him. And so we can catch any one of these prayers, and in this way, mantra is called mantra upasana. I mentioned the word upasana earlier, but mantra upasana means that there's a snapshot, basically, a still photo. Like with our deity worship, we have a still photo of the Lord standing in his Tribhanga form. And we sing the prayers to the Lord, glorifying him and appreciating his aspect of standing in his threefold bending form with Radha. And in that way we can meditate on that aspect of the Lord eternally in one specific scene. And who can think of other prayers that are directly to the Lord, that are in the Srimad Bhagavatam or another scripture? Mukharavind.
Can Kunti Maharani prays to in one of the...
Definitely. He's standing right there, right? And can you please say one of them? That's your favorite.
Namo Pankajanaabhaya, Namah Pankajanaabhaya, Namah Pankajamaline, Namah Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangrahe. That means...
Expound.
Namah Pankajanaabhaya. So here Kunti Maharani is... because he is happened to be aunt of the Lord Sri Krishna in this lila, so she started from meditating of the Lord's limb from the navel. So Namah Pankajanabhaya, she is telling that I offer obeisances to your navel, Nama Pankanaba, Nama Pankaja Maline. I offer Maline means in the head, the face, I think, Maline. And Nama Pankaja, sorry, what chest? The chest, sorry, yeah, Maline means chest. Nama Pankaja Netra, then I worship your beautiful lotus eye. And Namaste Pankaj, then lotus feet at last. I offer.
Can you get that verse?
Yeah.
Get that.
It's 1:8.
Take it from the first canto, from the book. Another? Yes, Gandharvika. So this prayer, just before we move on, of Queen Kunti, it's very sweet because she has a relationship with him as she's his aunt. And as Prabhupada mentions in his purport, she's considering that if I begin from the lotus feet, which is the etiquette, one begins from the lotus feet of the Lord and then works his way up in meditation or in mentioning the Lord's features. Out of a sense of humility, we start with the feet. But she felt that if I do that, he may feel uncomfortable because I'm in a relationship with him as his aunt. So if I submit myself to his lotus feet first, that will seem unnatural. This is the sense of love that comes in the relationship with the devotees and the Lord. And therefore she begins by talking about his lotus navel. Nama Pankajanaabhaya. So Nama means respectful obeisances, and this is used in so many prayers, Namaha, which actually means not me. Nama, not me. I'm putting myself in a lower position, offering myself to someone. Pankajanaabhaya, unto the Lord who has specific depression resembling a lotus flower in the center of his abdomen, Namaha, obeisances. Pankajamalane, who is always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers. Nama, obeisances. Pankajanitraya, one whose glance is as cooling as the lotus flower. Namaste, respectful obeisances. Nama Pankaja Angraye, unto you, the soles of whose feet are engraved with the lotus flowers and are therefore said to possess lotus feet. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Here's Prabhupada's purport, because this goes to the kind of nuance in offering prayer that I was just speaking about. Here are some of the specific symbolic marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead which distinguish his body from the bodies of all others. They are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his specific bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women, Shudras, the laborer class, and the Dvija Bandhus, or the wretched descendants of the higher three classes, are unfit by intelligence to understand the transcendental subject matter concerning the spiritual name, fame, attributes, forms, etc. of the Supreme Personality, Supreme Absolute Truth. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as the Archa Vigraha, who descends on the material world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls, including the above-mentioned women, Shudras, and Dvija Bandhus. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each of and every one of the innumerable universes as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen. And thus Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore the Lord is known as Pankajanabi. The Pankajanabi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, his transcendental form, in different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made of wood, a form made of earth, a form made of metal, a form made of a jewel, a form made of paint, a form drawn on sand, etc. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, and there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees always engaged in material wranglings. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even to the women, Shudras, and Dvijabandhus, provided they agree to visit the temple of worship in different forms made for them. Such temple visitors are not idolaters, as alleged by some men with a poor fund of knowledge. All the great acharyas established such temples of worship in all places just to favor the less intelligent, and one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship while one is actually in the category of the Shudras and the women or less. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, waist, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet, because the Lord might feel ashamed. And thus Kunti Devi, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet, that is, from the waist of the Lord, gradually rising to the face, and then down to the lotus feet. In the round, everything there is there in order. Okay. Rasika Shiromani, did you have a... Were you? Oh, it was Gandharvika. Go ahead. Gandharvika, then Rasika Shiromani.
No, one direct prayer that I like to Nrsimhadev is Yadi Dasyasi me kaman varamstam varadarshaba kamanam hridya samroham vavatastu vranevaram. So where Prahlad Maharaj prays that if at all you want to bestow me with a benediction, give me the benediction that I don't have any material desires within the core of the heart. And also I remembered another prayer where Lord Shiva says that the lotus navel of the Lord is so beautiful that the entire creation, when it sees the navel, it came out of the navel but it wants to go back into it. So those are the two things that came to my mind.
Nice. Rasika? And then Pratibha?
This prayer from Prahlad Maharaj to Nrsimhadev. Balasya neha sharanam pitaro nishinga nartasya chagadam udanvati majjato nau taptasya tat pratividirya ihan jasetas tavad vibho tanubratam tvat upekshitanam. I like this one, I'll just read the translation. Yeah. My Lord Nrsimhadev, O Supreme, because of a bodily conception of life, embodied souls neglected and not cared for by you cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, although perhaps temporarily beneficial, are certainly impermanent. For example, a father and mother cannot protect their child, a physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man.
Thank you. Pratibha.
This is a direct prayer that Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita sings in glorification of Krishna. And it goes, Tvamadi devaha purushaha purana Tvamasya vishvasya param nidhanam Vetasi vedyam cha param cha dhama Tvaya tatam vishwamananta rupa. So he's glorifying Krishna by singing that you are the oldest supreme Purusha person. And you're the Vedic knowledge of, you're the ultimate Vedic knowledge. And you're the ultimate abode of the whole universe. So that's one of my favorite.
Nice. You can't go wrong with Arjuna's prayers in the Bhagavad Gita. We have so much to choose from. Okay. Swadhyanya Bodhika. So, Dainya is utter humility. And there's a very precise definition of Dainya given in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami. And in that, he describes how, as one advances in devotional service, one develops this utter humility. It's a concomitant aspect of one's advancement in devotional service, to become utterly humble. It doesn't mean that one has low self-esteem. It doesn't mean that one becomes depressed. There's a kind of ecstasy in this dainya, or utter humility, in that one feels oneself more and more fallen and lowly, and at the same time, paradoxically, one is becoming more and more qualified. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also mentions this phenomena when he describes the 9 symptoms of bhava to Sanatana Goswami. And he says that although the devotee is the most qualified, as he advances, he feels himself more and more fallen. So Swadhyanya Bodhika is an offering of prayers expressing humility to the Lord. And we find this in many, many places, but here is one of the prayers, which is in the famous 14th chapter of the 10th canto, which is a very important chapter because this particular section of the Bhagavatam gives us the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. It proves the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, which is brought forward by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis, that Govinda is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here are one of the prayers uttered by Lord Brahma. Pashyesha me naram ananda adye, Pashyesha me naram ananda adye, Paratmani tvayapi mayini. Mayam vitat yekshitum atma vaibhavam. Yaham kiyan aicham ivarchir agnau. Lord Brahma said to Lord Krishna, after he felt utter defeat, not so much defeat, he was happy to accept that defeat. He was curious more than anything, because Krishna is eternally a curiosity. How is it that God is a cowherd boy? And Brahma's extremely educated, very sophisticated. He's known as Vidhi. Means he does everything right. According to the Vedic principles. In fact, his samskars are so strong because to become Brahma, you must perform the Vedic samskars perfectly for 100 lifetimes. No messing up. And then you become qualified. Your samskars are so strong that then okay, we could offer you this post of Brahma. So he's known as Vidhi. And as he comes to see Krishna, the little cowherd boy, I mean, he hears all how Krishna has killed Aghasura and the demigods are worshiping Krishna and so forth, and he comes to see for himself, what's all the clamor? And then he sees Krishna having a picnic in the forest with his friends. And he's not even eating with his right hand. And you can imagine Vidhi's is like, all right. I know there's a lot of manifestations of the Lord and so forth. And so, just sort of as a way to, out of curiosity, he stole away the calves and the cowherd boys. And of course, Krishna immediately remanifested them, and this was all part of a greater Leela so that the residents of Vrindavan could actually hold Krishna personally, and all the parents could have Krishna in their home, and the mothers could feed him, feed him directly and so forth, which was their desire. And Krishna fulfills everyone's desires. So he made this arrangement. And afterwards, of course, no one could understand what Krishna was doing, even Balaram. And in this pastime, it's revealed how Krishna is the supreme. Even Balaram had to remove layers, or Krishna was removing layers of his yoga maya one after the other, until Balaram finally said, oh, I see what's going on. Because there were were odd things going on in Vraj. The way the parents were reacting to their children, being so affectionate, more than they'd ever been before. And then the cows, they became exuberant and ran down the hill to meet with their calves, even after they had been separated at one point. And Balaram was thinking, is this some kind of a demon making some strange energy in Vraj that's causing this? And then he, one by one, he ruled out these various causes, and then he saw, oh, it's Krishna. Krishna revealed to him, oh, and then he said, okay, I see what you're doing, Krishna. And then Brahma, of course, he came in bewildered that I stole away the calves and cows, but now they're here again. And how is this done? And then Krishna revealed to him that all these calves and boys that he had manifested were actually Narayan forms. They were his, and that those forms were bowing down to Krishna, the cowherd boy. And he saw the entire universe animated and all circumambulating Krishna, and that everything came from him. And he fell down at the feet of Krishna, and he offered these prayers in great humility, that although I'm the great Brahma, and other people may say they know Krishna, they know something, but I say I know nothing. I'm Brahma, I know nothing. I don't know anything about Krishna, I give up. And then he said, give up your endeavor to know Krishna by your intelligence. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. He said, don't endeavor in that way. It's a way to control. It's to want to know everything. He said, give that up. Just do your sadhana. Just do upasana, mantra upasana. Pray from your heart that Krishna, I don't know you, I can't know you, but please let me be close to you. Let me be your servant. This is all we can do. This is our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People demand, show me God. We'll bring him to court. Bring him to court, make him prove he's God. But he doesn't have to show up. He'll just say, I'm not coming, sorry. You can't approach him in that way. You can only approach through these kinds of prayers. So expressing humility is very relishable activity. And therefore we find that great acharyas like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who are on the highest platform, they're already established in their personal relationship with Krishna, yet they're expressing prayers of humility that I'm the most fallen soul of all, and that I've wasted my whole life, I have no connection with Krishna, and so forth. Because it's very relishable to express one's humility in this kind of prayer. So what other types of prayers can you remember, expressions of great humility? Mukharavind.
Not exactly remember. You have to complete when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami started writing. Then he told that Jagai Madai se Muis Papishta something.
That's a nice one, yeah. Kaviraj Goswami, who wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita, says that I'm lower than a worm in stool. This is his feeling of humility as he's attempting to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm lower than a worm in stool. Yeah.
Before Prahlad Maharaj offers his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, he says, how can I, a mere boy, offer prayers unto you after so many demigods cannot do it? But then he compares it to Gajendra, that he was an elephant, but he did it. So
nice. Prahlad, although he's the most qualified, and that's why Lord Nrsingadev came to protect him, he says, I can't, what can I say? A mood of humility. What else? Yes, Malini.
In the prayer, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarvashaktis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorifying the holy name, and in the end he says, I have no attraction, though you are present in your holy names, but I am so unfortunate, I have no attraction for them.
It's a really good point, because in the Shikshashtakam we find he says, Durdaivam idrishami hajani nanuragaha. Nanuragaha, I have no I can't get, I have no bhav. I don't have any attraction for it. And that's because duraivam, I'm unfortunate. Really means that the demigods are, I'm star-crossed. I'm vexed. And then, what's the recourse? He says, I have no attraction. I'm very fallen. I'm cursed, basically. So then the next verse comes, Trinadapi sunichena. This is all you can do. Become very, very humble. And this is the method for moving ahead. It's this expressing humility through prayers. I'm so low, I can't do anything. We find this in our service, that as we want to perform service and we may feel ourselves unqualified, or we find out as we perform it that we're definitely unqualified because somehow or other it's not going right. What can we do? We can pray with great humility. Say, I'm unqualified, but somehow or other I've been put into this situation. So please show me how to do this, my Lord. I'm the most fallen. I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be amongst these other devotees. I'm the lowest of the low. Please empower me to do this service. Hansapriya.
I think what you just mentioned, it reminds me of Srila Prabhupada's prayers in Jaladuta.
Prabhupada's prayers in the Jaladuta when he's approaching and he says that I'm not qualified, please empower me. Recently, Madhukari Prabhu wrote me a letter and he was telling me that he finds that when he's on book distribution, where he finds himself quite frequently, that if he makes himself very, very humble, keeps himself in a very humble state of mind, then the books they flow out easily. And he constantly reminds himself that he's lowly, fallen, he has no power other than that what's coming through him. And one can pray like this in one's service to stay in this condition. In fact, when Prabhupada talks about deity worship, there's a very moving lecture that Prabhupada gives about deity worship and how to perform it. And Srila Prabhupada's describing the mood one should be in, and he says that this is the most important aspect of deity worship. And then he says that, Krishna, I've brought you this flower, I'm unqualified, and then he said, I'm fallen and rotten. And as Prabhupada says that, his voice breaks, and he actually begins to, emotionally, his emotion comes out that he's, breaking, about to cry. And if you listen to the tape, then you'll feel like that also. He'll say, I'm very fallen and rotten. And as he says the word rotten, then he basically loses it, And the audience, who is ever listening to that lecture, will immediately feel the impact of it. Some atheist may say, well, prayers, they're just words and, just syllables and so forth. Why does it have such an impact on those listening? When someone expresses through humility, even those who listen to the prayer become affected by it. We are not dead stones. We are sentient, conscious beings, and Krishna is the supreme conscious being. And when we feelingly offer prayers out of humility, then there's a reciprocation. Not only do those around us feel the effect, not only feel, Krishna reciprocates with this great feeling of humility. And this is the sum and substance of of advancement in devotional service, this feeling of humility. Dainya. Yes?
I just want to mention there's a prayer, Gopinath by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That is kind of like the epitome of humility, because in every verse of that prayer.
Why don't you read two of them?
This is, O Gopinath, how will you purify me? I do not know what devotion is, and my materialistic mind is absorbed in fruitive work. I have fallen into this dark and perilous worldly existence. And then he says, O Gopinath, weeping and weeping, This sinner begs for an eternal place at your divine feet. Please give him your mercy.
I've heard Keshava Bharti Maharaj prescribe that prayer to various devotees and say, just read that every day and you'll get your japa back on track. You'll get your devotional service. So these prayers, if we're not feeling humility, we can take that advice. Thank you, Shraddha. Nice entry. And we can read those prayers, and then we'll begin feeling humility ourselves, and it will bring us to the proper state of consciousness. Sundarananda Prabhu.
I was thinking about how Srila Sanatana Goswami approached Lord Chaitanya with I think grass in his straw between his teeth, and offered prayers that I don't know anything, and he submitted himself to Lord Chaitanya.
He and Sanatana and Rupa came to Lord Chaitanya and said that you've come to save the most fallen. So he said, we've done a study and we found that we're the most qualified. Because we are the most fallen. Jagai and Madai, they're exalted compared to us. They didn't offend devotees. We're offenders to everybody, to cows, the Brahmins, to the devotees. So please consider us first. This is the power of humility and praying in humility, that it puts you at the front of the line. Okay, next, Manak Shiksha. This Manak Shiksha is a form of prayer epitomized by Raghunath Das Goswami's actual stotram, which is called the Manak Shiksha. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, at night you should beat your mind with shoes, and in the morning you should beat your mind with broomsticks. So the mind is a wild beast and can devour us, and has kept us in the material world life after life. And there are prayers offered feelingly to the mind, or in this case we call instructions to the mind. This is one of the forms of prayer that one can adopt. My dear mind, I humbly prostrate myself before you. Taking hold of your feet, I beseech you, please give up all pride and surrender fully to Sri Guru, to the spiritual abode of Rajdham, to the residence of Raj, to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, to the Sattvic Brahmins, to the holy name of the Supreme Lord, and to the ever-fresh and youthful divine couple of blossoming beauty, Sri Radha and Krishna, and in this way quickly develop sublime attachment to them. And in offering these kinds of prayers to the mind, we immediately remind ourselves that, and the mind, that our real prospect is in thinking of Krishna and serving the devotees. In one of his instructions to the mind, he laments that false pride that enters into the mind is like the stool of a hog. Please give it up, he says, mind. Don't touch that. It's like a child, who's going here, there, and everywhere, picking up everything, touching it, and so forth. The mind is unruly, like a child who is untrained, and through these instructions of the mind, one realizes, one reforms the mind and brings it back to its real prospect. And Krishna says in the Gita, Man mana bhava mad bhakto, just think of me. If you fix your mind upon me, then this is the perfection of devotional service, to think of Krishna. So the mind must be instructed, and we can find these prayers that are instructing our mind and be edified by reciting them and remembering it, that will bring our mind back to its real prospects. Can anyone think of other prayers to the mind? Gandharvika beat you on this one, Mukharavind. And then so Gandharvika, and then Mukharavind, and then Shamalangi. Oh, you were just pointing out.
I was just thinking of the song that by Govinda Dasa that we sing, Bhajahure Manashri Nandanandana. That song. Abhaya Charana. He gives many reasons why the mind should not be attached in the material world.
Nice. That's a famous one. Good one. Thank you. all words not uttered into the mic are. It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one was there.
In the page 189 in the Sloka book, in which the Kunti Maharani prays, Tvai me nanya visayamatir madhupate sakrit ratim uddhavata dadha gange vogam udanvati. So in which he prays, O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else.
So sort of a prayer to the mind. And then Rupa Goswami gives a similar, Yuvatinam yata yuni yunam cha yuvata yata mano biramate tadman mano me ramatam tvai. So he's saying, just as young boys are attracted to young girls and young girls are attracted to young boys, let my mind be similarly attracted to you, O Lord. This is sort of an instruction to the mind. It's like, you know how you just did that? Do that for Krishna. Not over there, over here. So this is a very powerful way to remember that actually all the impulses that we have are actually meant for Krishna. It's just that our senses have become contaminated. And through devotional service, sarvopani vinirmuktam tapratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. Through the process of devotional service and prayer, the senses become purified and free from designation, and then they become re-engaged in their actual service to Krishna. So, Vilatpatmika. This form of prayer, extreme lamentation, epitomized in this verse in the 10th canto, 31st chapter, 15th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Atati yad bhavam anikananam Truti yugayate tvam upashyatam. Kutila kuntalam shimukam chate. Jada udikshatam pakshma kridrisham. When you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with this adornment of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by the foolish Creator. So this is a verse from the gopis who basically are calling Brahma a dunce, because he didn't do a very good job of what? He didn't design the body in such a way that one could constantly gaze upon Krishna. Yes. Sure. All these materials are available on a final link we'll give you, and you can just download them for a small charge. No. So extreme lamentation. Who can also think of another prayer? Wow, Malini's right there. Okay, and then Sundar.
Jugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravarshaitam shunyaitam jagatsatam govinda virhenimi.
You took Sundar's, by the way. He's back there with extreme lamentation right now. Tell about the verse. Go ahead.
Like Lord Chaitanya is saying, like in separation from Krishna, I'm feeling like a moment to be like 12 years or more. And tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. And I feel vacant in this world in your absence. So.
Beautiful. Nice one. Anything else? Oh, he's got a backup.
I was remembering Arjuna's prayers in the first canto. Not prayers, but lamentation and remembrance of Krishna when he actually goes to Dwaraka and he's not able to protect. Krishna leaves.
Nice, good one.
Leaves the. He warns of the pastimes, and he's not able to protect the queens and mothers of Dwaraka.
And then there are, go ahead.
Yeah, then he describes to Yudhishthira Maharaj how he remembers so many pastimes with the Lord and instructions of the Lord and cries out.
Beautiful. Good save. Okay. Shraddha?
This one is from the Shad Goswami Astakam.
Yes?
Where they say, He Radhe Vraj Devi ke chalalite, He Nanda Suno Kutaha, Shri Govardhana Kalpa Pada Patale, Kalindi Vane Kutaha, Ghoshantav iti Sarvato Vrajapure, Kheder Maha Vihvalao, Vande Rupa Sanatanam Yagurudao, Shri Jeev Gopalakao.
So tell how it's a lamentation.
So they are feeling extreme separation from them. And the 6 Goswamis, they are chanting very loudly everywhere in Vrindavan, and they're going and trying to find where Radha is, where Krishna is.
Maybe a kind of separation.
It's a separation, yeah. So they're lamenting from separation.
Okay.
My favorite prayers are Ye Anilo Premadana, the separation of Vaishnava Thakurs.
Yeah. Also, Dhruva Maharaj lamented bitterly after he saw Krishna and then realized that he had these gross desires. In the face of meeting Krishna, then all of those things became grotesque to him. And he lamented for a long time. Jagai Madai, after they were rectified by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, constantly cried and cried, especially Madai, who had actually hit Lord Nityananda on the head with a pot. He couldn't stop crying and lamenting that he had offended Lord Nityananda, and finally went and asked for service, and he built that Madai Ghat, to rectify and to serve all the devotees. So extreme lamentation. Then we have Vaishnav Mahima Prakasika, which is glorifying the Lord's devotees. And of course we have the Mangal Charan prayers, in which we offer our obeisances to our Acharya, to our Guru, to our Param Guru, to our Param Guru, to the whole disciplic succession. In the Gaudiya Mat, they sing that song written by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that goes through the whole Shiksha Parampara and glorifies all the devotees and so forth. And we can find unlimited verses like this, specifically glorifying the Lord's devotees. And these are very tasty, very powerful. To think of even one great devotee and meditate on him, like we went to Jagannath Das Babaji's Bhajan Kutir when we were in Navadip. And just spending the afternoon there, meditating on that great soul, seeing the place where he is chanting eternally and so forth, and remembering him through prayers, we felt great ecstasy. And then think about how many devotees there are to think of and offer prayers to. Then we have Sri Guru Vaishnav Vignapati Rupa, and supplications made to the spiritual master. So, Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Pakati Sadma Bando Mui Savadhana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai Bhavatori Ajay Krishna Prapti Hoy Jahai Te. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Others? Yes. Hoy Vaishnav Thakur, is that the one you were going to say? Okay, which one? Ukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yakripa tamaham bande.
Shri Gurum Dinataranam.
Translation.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, even a lame man can cross over the ocean of nations, and even a dumb man can speak eloquent verses from the scriptures.
Girim, he can cross the mountains, the layman.
We have the entire Guru Ashtakam, which has supplications to the Master. The one that I like most is Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasado Yasa Prasadan Nagati Kutopi Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yashasti Sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charnaravindam. So it says with Guru's mercy we can find Lord Krishna, and without His mercy there's nothing that we can do.
Supplication. Okay. Shri Dham Base Lipsatmika. Do we have this? Are we wired for this? Oh. But the sound we have? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. This is a desire to live in holy places. And this comes with a warning on it. Be careful. Unless you want to move. Because if you recite these prayers, you'll go there. I wanted to interview Keshav Bharti Maharaj about this. I didn't have the opportunity yesterday. But he tells a story about how he received these prayers, which are a request to live in Govardhan, and began reciting them every day, just out of appreciation of Govardhan. He didn't live in Govardhan at the time. And then he got a phone call from Tamal Krishna Maharaj saying, we have this project in Govardhan, and right now you're in between services, so would you go there? And he went there, and it was actually a heavy austerity, because they refurbished that whole Govardhan palace, which was a palace of a small-time king. And it was in disrepair, in ruins actually, and Keshav Bharti Maharaj had to reconstruct the whole thing. It means when you reconstruct something, you have to live there, especially in India, because you have to watch every single thing that's done. And he lived there straight for several years to reconstruct the thing in 140-degree temperature. He had to have his gallbladder removed because it stopped working. It was too hot there, and so forth. But he told me that one day, soon after he had gotten there, and he was sitting in Govardhan, and he realized this is his new service, and then it hadn't connected immediately. Then when he pulled out this prayer to read it, he said, "Oh, Giriraj, what have you done? I prayed, and now I'm here, and this is my place." And that's become his home. That's his home base. He has a little bhajan kutir there where he lives, and all it is a room full of books. I mean, it was custom made, that little room that he lives in, and all the walls are these enormous bookshelves that are where he has all the Vaishnava literatures. Very powerful room. Everyone who walks in there said, "Oh, okay, I get it. This is it." Shraddha.
About the desire to live in Vrindavan, I was just going to add, we do the Tulsi prayers where it says, Samora e yabilash vilas kunjutiyavas nene haribo sada yugali ruparaj.
It's a request, and we should become conscious of that, and from our heart ask Tulsi, please, let me be a resident of Vrindavan. Nice one, Shraddha. This is Anupanamani Vedi Ratna Simbasanorvi Ruhajara Darasanu Droni Sagesu Raghai Sahabala Sakipi Sakelayan Swapriyame Nijanikata Nivasam Dehi Govardhana Tvam. O Govardhan, O hill where Lord Krishna happily plays with Balaram and his friends, in the incomparable jeweled courtyards, jeweled lion thrones, trees, waterfalls, mountain brooks, caves, peaks, and valleys, please grant the residence near you that is so dear to me. From the Sri Govardhan Vas Prarthana by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. And we used to sing that quite regularly, and I think we'll take it up again maybe as soon as possible, especially since Sri Mukunda Datto Prabhu is coming. And we want to sort of get the bhav going. You know, when people are getting ready to go see the Rolling Stones or something, they pull out all their old albums and they start listening to it over and over again to get fired up to go to the concert. So now that Sri Mukunda Dato Prabhu, it's like kind of a rock star status, definitely in devotional service. Before he comes here, we can start doing a few of these prayers, listening to his rendition, which is extremely sweet. And then the Sadhaka Dehir Lalasa Suchika. Devotional service of the sadhaka. Nandanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhakti rahaiti tvai. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Other prayers that are those of a sadhaka. Shraddha.
Where we pray to the 6 Goswamis again. We say, E Chai Gosai Kare Charan Bandhan. That part of the prayer. I'll just read it from there. E Chai Gosai Yar Mui Tar Das Tan Sabara Pada Renu Mora Panchagras. So it talks about being a servant of...
Translation.
I am the servant of that person who is the servant of these 6 Goswamis. The dust of the lotus feet is my 5 kind of foods.
Nice. Yes. Himanshu.
Na ham vipro na cha narapati na vaishyo na shudro na ham vrani na cha grahapatir na vanaprasto yatirva kintu protyan nikla paramananda purnamritabder gopir bhartur pad kamalayor das dasanadas. I do not desire. I'm not a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra. I'm not a brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. I just desire to be the servant of the Supreme Lord, who is the master of the gopis and who is the abode of the full ocean of nectarine love.
Nice. Perfect. Siddha Deher Lalasmai. Devotional service of a Nitya Siddha. From Sharanagati, prayers by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. When I factually observe that the transcendental lane of Navadvip is non-different from Sri Vrajabhumi, then I shall be transformed into a Brijbasi also. Then I will see the true form of the transcendental realm opening up before my very eyes, and I will thus become one of the maidservants of Srimati Radharani. Akshepa Bodhika. Grief due to falling into the material world. Here is one person who has been turned into such an ass, who for so long has carried on his back the useless burden of material existence. Now in my old age, for want of the power to enjoy, I find that nothing at all pleases me. From Sharanagati, prayers by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Now, yes, Malini.
Gee, what is the difference between the last prayer we read and the lamentation, extreme lamentation?
Grief due to falling in the material world? There are general categories of lamentation about one's inability to perform devotional service, and then there's specific to falling into the material world. And all of these have a certain kind of taste and rasa. So the spiritual world is the ocean of tastes, or Krishna is the king of all rasas, and all of them emanate from him. And we can connect to those feelings in the spiritual world by offering these kinds of prayers. And as we become more aware of their moods, there are actually tunes during and different times of the day that one would offer certain kinds of prayers. That's why there are various ragas The ragas originally come from the spiritual world. They come from Goloka, where the gopis are performing their service to Krishna and different moods. The song, the raga, expresses that. And then the prayers that go along with those. Now we have a text that just has come in, and I haven't also given the number. So if you'd like to text in a question or a comment, the number is 650-245-7018. We thank you for joining us online today, wherever you are. Number again, if you'd like to comment through a text, 650-245-7018. Our operators are standing by to take your call. Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, this is from Sudeep Prabhu.
Sudeep, Haribo.
And he was talking on, the prayer he has submitted is when we were talking about the Swadhyaya Bhakti, so humility. He says, we've discussed this on Wednesday, prayers by Akrur. I like how he arrives to 1040.28, where he says, being thus fallen, I am approaching your lotus feet for shelter, O Lord, because although the impure can never attain your feet, I think it is nevertheless possible by your mercy.
Thank you. And that reminds me, I think it was Vishaka Leela who asked, why is it Akura? So I did a little bit of sleuthing. And one of the answers I got from Bhanu Swami was that this Vandanam actually means to fall like a stick, is what it means, to fall down on the ground and feelingly offer some prayer. And Akura epitomized that, because when he got to Vrindavan, he fell off his chariot onto the ground and rolled on the ground in the dust, offering his prayers. So this brings the pinnacle of prayers when one is in that mood that falls off the prayers. He didn't give me the exact reference, but he indicated something about Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I asked Keshav Bharti Maharaj, and he just gave his own basic. He said, well, look at the situation he was in. He was asked to go to retrieve Krishna, knowing that he was being the servant of Kamsa, and knowing that he was going to get cursed by the gopis. And he did. He was. And meanwhile, he went on feelingly offering prayers in all circumstances. So, a couple of thoughts. Now we're looking at...
There's one more text, Maharaj.
Pardon me?
There's one more.
One more, okay.
This is from Rajesh Prabhu.
Rajesh, Haribo.
So he says, Guru Gobind dono khade, kake lagu paye, balihari Guru aapke, Govind diyo bataye.
Bangla?
Balihari Guru aapko, Govind diyo bataye. And he's going to give the translation. He says, Kabir wrote this verse to sing the glory of Guru, without whose help one cannot cross this ocean of worldly life. He asks, if both Guru and the God, in the form of Govind, were to appear at the door, whose feet will I worship first? He answers, it has to be the Guru's feet first, because without him, how would I have recognized or known God? I love this. This is very touching glorification of Guru.
It is, and it's indication of a very powerful culture. You find in India that this culture is there. People instinctively know. Well, I mean, of course, Kali Yuga is coming on strong, but there's a way in which there's a culture of respect, learning to, worship the superior, worship the guru, worship the father, mother, and so forth. That'll is not so much prevalent in Western society, and especially with the cynicism of science, that this is all optional kind of idea, or it's just relative.
And
yes.
A question has come up here.
A question?
Yeah. So the question is that how does one worship God passively in Shantras?
By appreciating Him. One just appreciates in Shantaras, there's no dasya. There's no, I'm going to get up and do something about this. In other words, one's just sort of meditating and seeing that God is He's so beautiful, He's so great, so powerful. And then the next the progression beyond that is Dasa, where one says, now I'm going to serve him, and gets up and serves. So we're looking at what we have available to us. Just a small section shows us the prayers of Queen Kunti, which were favorites of Srila Prabhupada. And these beautiful prayers, we have some nice recordings of those. We have recordings of Srila Prabhupada chanting the prayers of Queen Kunti. I also recorded a brahmachari friend of mine from one of the Gaudiya Mats in Vrindavan who has a very sweet voice and is expert at Sanskrit, who is a disciple of B.V. Puri Maharaj. And I caught that on tape and listened to it over and over again. And I believe those on our website, Fan the Spark, available? Could we make them as downloads? We could put them up there so you could take those and listen to them. It's a nice way to learn prayers, is to listen to someone expert doing it. It's also a good idea to chant them yourself and listen to your own voice. You did get it in the little thumb drive. So if you got a thumb drive last year in September, it's on there. Yeah, should be floating around. Bhishmadev's prayers. Amazingly, lying on a bed of arrows, such a stalwart. When someone's passing away, everyone's so emotional. And we just heard about the passing away of our very dear godbrother Keshava Prabhu, who's one of the pioneers of the Krishna consciousness movement. Tragically, he passed away at the age of 62, but he was one of the first really successful organizers of book distribution. He was the temple president in San Francisco. We're all trying to follow in his footsteps, but he and his brother Karandar were both notable devotees. Karandar's still alive. But we just heard yesterday from one of his close associates that he had been very stoic when he was leaving his body, which was just a few days ago. And that anyway, I was just remembering him when I was thinking of Bhishmadev and wanted to glorify Keshava Prabhu. His memorial service is taking place in Los Angeles today, starting at 1 o'clock. So we pray to Srila Prabhupada and to Lord Krishna that he may continue his exalted service in their company. And please bless us from wherever he is, that we may continue the Sankirtan movement. Keshava Prabhu ki jai. So Bhishmadev, imagine the heart-rending situation. The beloved Bhishmadev is there on the battlefield with the arrows, and they go to him, and he offers these prayers to Lord Krishna. Interestingly, you'll find in the prayers of Bhishmadev that he remembers how Krishna is the lover of the gopis. One may think, oh, Bhishmadev, he's on, some other lower ras, But this just shows, actually, devotees in all different situations, they have their own preference, the way they worship Krishna. However, that doesn't mean they're unaware of the finer sentiments of devotional service or all the different aspects of the way his devotees relate to him. And he mentions that in his prayers. These are studied over and over again by those advancing in devotional service. The prayers of Prahlad Maharaj were favorites of Srila Prabhupada also. He quoted from these over and over again. There's so much in there. You can live off these prayers. If you just learn, some verses from the Bhagavad Gita and Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, there's so many practical preaching verses that he gives there. And these we highly recommend. Gajendra, just such an amazing circumstance how Gajendra, we can all relate, at least I can relate to Gajendra. He's thinking he has it made, and then all of a sudden he's captured by the crocodile and dragged down almost to death, and then begins to pray. This is something I think is universally relatable. And Krishna comes and saves him because of his prayers. And Lord Brahma, we talked about, who's the founder of our sampradaya. And then the gopis' prayers. We have the Gopi Gita, the prayers to the flute, of Krishna, Venu Geet and so forth. There's so many different prayers. And these are some of the most eloquent prayers, are the most eloquent prayers anywhere in the creation, even compared to, literary standards. If you look at the Sanskrit and actually how the subtle meanings and the literary devices that are employed in these verses, and compare them to any other literature in the world, Shakespeare or any of the famous poets, those other poets pale in comparison. That's a fact. So we can learn those and sing them. The role of prayer in japa. Entering kirtan in a prayerful mood. So japa is an opportunity for us to say, repeat a prayer to Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is our main sadhana. And obviously the mood in which we perform that will determine the result that we get. And the best, one of the descriptions that Srila Prabhupada has given is that one should cry out to Krishna like a baby cries for its mother. And we heard the example last night of Prahlad Maharaj felt himself to be like an infant, cared for by, Krishna was caring for him like a mother cares for an infant. He was completely unaware of his necessities. He was only feeling that he was embraced by Krishna. So we should enter into that state as we're praying, doing our japa. That is absorption. And entering kirtan in a prayerful mood. Once in Mayapur, when we were there in 1975 with Prabhupada, and he was on the Vyasasana, and all the devotees were there. Hundreds of new devotees, mostly brahmacharis, a lot of energy in the room. And the kirtan started, and devotees were dancing in such a wild way that some were, slamming into each other and swinging around and doing all these things. And Prabhupada stopped the kirtan. He said, not like that. He wanted us to not just try to enjoy the kirtan or just let out energy and go wild, but he wanted us to chant in a prayerful mood. It didn't mean don't dance, didn't mean don't be enthusiastic, but be prayerful. Be aware of the fact that you're singing the holy name. My godbrother Vaikuntanath, I've noticed him in kirtan. I always note this about him. I watch him in kirtan. He closes his eyes and he prays so intently when he's singing the holy name in kirtan. When I see him and I think, let me try to go there where he's going, So we should enter into kirtan in a prayerful mood. When we go out for Harinam Sankirtan, don't look around, don't get too absorbed in the externals. There's so many distractions, Pizza My Heart, and there's watch shops and all these pictures. They're meant there to distract us, But if we can enter into the holy name in a prayerful mood, remember praying. Pray that the people may hear this and be delivered. Pray that this will go all over the planet. Pray that it will enter my heart and I can actually become a sincere devotee and so forth. If we stay connected to kirtan through prayer, we'll have a very different experience than if we don't. How to pray. So we have passed out, Vrindavan passed out, a little, disappeared too. That's curious. Wonder where he is. Here's a beautiful little card. How to pray and what to say. So this whole seminar is sort of along these lines, how to pray and what to say. But here's a sample that Vishaka Lila picked out from a prayer that we've said quite frequently and say quite frequently here at ISV to Lord Nrsingadev. And this is very important. Right now we're coming upon the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev. Why is it in Gaudiya Vaishnavism when we're actually after Raghunuga Bhakti, according to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we're worshiping Lord Nrsingadev, who's not a deity who's considered to be in the Rag Marg and so forth. And why is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worshipped the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj so much, at least in his Madhya Lila? And the answer is that this is the foundation for all advancement in devotional service. The mood of Prahlad Maharaj is that of complete desirelessness for anything for himself. He's only thinking of the service of his Lord. That I don't want anything, I just want to be the servant of your servant, in fact, is his Britya Sevam. That I want to serve your servant. And I have no personal desire. Even when offered all kinds of benediction, he said, no, I don't want anything. Bhakti for bhakti. Seva for seva. I'm not in this for myself. And the anartas that put us in this false ego of wanting to be the center. Even in devotional service, this comes up in the being washed away by the waves that come from being honored to be a devotee. One may become an advanced devotee, and then people will come and offer all kinds of honor, and then it may go to my head. And then my mood of pure devotional service is ruined. So the foundational point is to come to this stage of unalloyed bhakti exhibited by Prahlad Maharaj. Therefore, these prayers are very apt, and then we find that Bhaktivinoda Thakur worships Lord Nrsingadev in this mood. Please remove the obstacles to my pure bhakti. And Lord Nrsingadev is there in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. So it's not that we're doing two separate things. We're moving towards the higher stages of devotion, which we keep way above our heads as a worshipable item, as a worshipable state, and those devotees who are in it. And while we're here, we pray to Lord Nrsingadev to please remove the anartas from my heart. We don't say, kill all my enemies or something like that. We say, let my car stay, fresh and clean. Don't let anybody scratch it. No. The idea is that let me become like Prahlad, unmotivated and uninterrupted in my service. And whatever comes up, I'm not a victim. Prahlad had every reason to be a victim. He was abused by his father. His father tried to kill him in myriad ways. And Prahlad never said, look, I'm an abused kid. So I deserve special consideration. He never said that. And this idea of entitlement, that I'm special, this is a kind of contamination that Prahlad doesn't have. So we're praying to Lord Nrsingadev in the same mood. This is what to pray for in the stage of Vaidhi Bhakti as we're moving forward. Please remove all these obstacles. So that we'll say this prayer together. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Tejase Aviravirbhava Bhava Vajranaka Vajradamshtra Karmasayan Randaya Tamo Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Puishta Om Shram. I offer my respectful obeisances altogether unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruit of activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. So, the mood of this prayer, knowing that Krishna has the power to remove these obstacles, this is also brought out in the Sri Krishna Samhita by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he shows that each one of the demons in Vrindavan is a real demon, but is also representative of a kind of anarta that one typically would carry within one's heart. And Krishna is the one who kills all those demons. And therefore we meditate on Krishna, we pray to Krishna, please come and remove all these varieties of demons so there'll be no hindrance to my progress in devotional service. And how to pray is an important study. We should make a study of this. How to pray. We should look at the previous acharyas. We should study the different modes of prayer. And we can also pray for others. Prabhupada had us pray for him when his health went down. He gave us prayers which began and ended with, "Oh my Lord, if you so desire, please save our spiritual master, let him stay with us. Thank you for considering our request. He gave us these, the prefix and affix, so that we could approach the Lord in the right mood. And there is proof. Of course, empiric proof, people question how a study was done, was it really scientific and so forth. But there's growing evidence that there is power in prayer, that people who know others are praying for them or even don't know, and that there's a vibration. The whole material world is a vibration, actually. And when devotees are making sincere prayers, it changes the vibration. And because of that, one can improve in one's situation in the material world. So praying for others is also a good idea. And this is an example. Prahlad Maharaj is saying that I don't care about myself, I don't care about my situation, but please, those unfortunate people, rascals, who are absorbed in the material life, save them, my Lord, Lord Nrsingadev. Anyone else think of prayers by Vaishnavas who are praying for others? Yes.
We hear in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes that Vasudeva Datta, I believe he prayed that let him get all the karma that's affecting all the conditioned souls in the material world, so that they can all progress.
Vasudeva Datta, yeah, that's true, yeah. A classic example. Let everyone else in the whole material creation go back to God. I alone will stay and suffer all the karma. You had another one?
So I was just reminded of the power of prayers, where Guru Maharaj was saying in one of his lectures that when he fell ill and no doctors had any hope that he would come alive, Radhanath Swami was taking everyone on Vrindavan Yatra, and every place they stopped, they prayed for him. And he said that the power of prayers, like when Vaishnavas prayed, it really works, and we see it in front of our eyes that it works.
Thank you. Who else? You had a point.
So, Enichi Osadi Maya Nashi Baralagi Hari Nama Mahamantra Lau Tumi Magi. That I've got this medicine of holy name, so please take it and get the benefit. Yeah, everyone.
Nice. Sort of offering it, please take.
Please take. Yeah,
yeah, that's nice. Yeah. The Vaishnavas Paradukha Dukhi. Vrindavan, how are you? Good to see you back. Humility and prayer. So the two go together. That if we feel this humility, then it's natural that we'll be able to utter sincere prayers. And any last reflections? Yes. Yeah, we have this handy worksheet that Vishakha Lila made that you can use to think about prayers and what we talked about today, and you can fill this out. So why don't you do that, and then we'll come back to the reflections.
So Maharaj, while we are waiting for that, I'm getting text messages.
Okay.
People online are asking from where can they find these wonderful documents that we are getting in the studio.
Is it on here? No, it's not. Oops. So where can we get them? Where will they be?
If they go to vaisesikadas.com, and on the top there's a page called Materials. From there they'll be able to download everything.
Okay, so you can go to fanthespark.com. It goes to the same place. FANTHISPARK.com. Fanthespark.com. And then where will it be on the page?
On the material page, download page, yeah.
On the downloads page. You go to the downloads page and you'll find all the materials that we're using here. On that section, you can download them. And thank you very much for those who have joined us online today. We welcome you to the broadcast. If you'd like to text in, it's 650-245-7018. Our operators are standing by right now to take your texts and calls. So, do you all have a pen? If you need a pen, take a few minutes to fill this out. take about 2 more minutes as we want to discuss. Does that give you enough time? Vrindavan, how much time you need? You all right? Okay. So let's hear. I'm dying to hear what everyone's thinking. Mukaravind.
It's a nice exercise, Maharaj. You can
give us the, some of the jewels that you picked out. Not everything, but just sort of like
goals.
Whatever. Any of the highlights of the things. Just offer 1 or 2 things.
Like what I feel in this?
Not everything.
Okay, goals. I will talk about the goals.
Okay.
In which how we. The question is write some goals to add prayers to your daily life. So I found we have so many devotional items in front of us, like Srimad Bhagavatam. So whenever we see them, there are so many verses specifically glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. We can learn and recite whenever we see Bhagavatam in our front, or like deities, or anything. Any festivals are coming. Like Narsimha Chaturdashi is coming, so we can target, whatever is there in ISV prayer list, we will remember all the verses for glorifying the Lord on the Narsimha Dev Day. So it's for every MSF there is some prayers that you can remember for the Lord.
Did you get that? So I didn't. During the MSF, we should have a certain prayer that we say?
For our personal thing.
Oh, during this, leading up to the MSF. We should pick a particular prayer and then think about it. That's one of your goals. Nice. Is this off now? Okay, let's hear more. Reflections, realizations. We got Vaisesika Shiromani and then Shraddha Devi Dasi.
So, regarding the importance of prayer, whenever I pray, I don't pray that much, but whenever I pray, I realize my insignificant position and Krishna's supremacy, and I feel like it makes me come to my senses. And then I realize that Krishna is my only shelter. Other times I think everything is okay and things are fine and I'm doing well. But only when I pray I realize that I need Krishna's shelter and I'm dependent on Krishna. So
nice. It makes you, when you actually pray to Krishna, it makes you aware of what you're doing. You have to stop and think about it. Shraddha is next, and then we have Shamalangi, and Pooja's ready to get in there. She's praying to get in. Going like this.
And her prayers got answered. So Maharaj, when I was writing the answer to the question that how you can incorporate prayers in your everyday life, there were so many situations that you could pray, starting from being grateful when you're afraid of danger, you're facing indecision, somebody's not listening to you. So I just came to the conclusion that you should be praying 24 hours of the day.
Okay, so your goal is to pray 24 hours a day. That's a good idea. Keep the prayer going. Shamalangi. Keep that one back there. That's for
so I wanted to talk about which prayers inspire you most and why. So for me personally, I like Brahma Samhita the most, Brahma's prayers, and it's like a personal reason because I started coming to the Saturday classes, and in the beginning I couldn't even pronounce the reading, and I used to feel very sad after every class that why can't I, when other devotees are reading, why can't I do that? And so I started reading it every day at home, and so now it's there in my morning schedule. And even when I didn't understand, the sounds were so powerful that it used to create a lot of difference in me and my mood. So that's my personal favorite.
Wow, a personal realization about the power of prayer, that the vibration was so powerful that it brought you to another level. That's really important. Nice realization. Thank you very much. Now let's hear what Pooja has to say.
So I said, before doing any devotional or material activity, tell Krishna that you're doing it for him and all the result goes to him. So before, I had star tests this whole week, so I have a small picture of Prabhupada in my backpack. So before I submit my test, I offer that to Srila Prabhupada, and then I say, this is all for Krishna, and whatever I do, whatever my result comes, it's for you, Krishna. And then try to find Krishna in your daily life, and appreciate that, oh Krishna, you're so great, that this is how, everything is how it is.
I like that a lot. It's very practical. Offering ahead of time all of your activities, including your star tests. No, Krishna says in the Gita, Yat koroshi yadashna shiyaj johosi dadasya, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva mararpanam, everything. Connect it to me, offer to me, and offering it with a prayer is a very conscious, loving thing to do in the beginning. So, yeah, I like that very much. Thank you, Pooja. Good contribution. Vrindavan, what do you got? Okay. Malini.
Prabhuji, I like this seminar very much, and on the Wednesday that you mentioned that we have to clarify our mood before we pray to Krishna and see why are we praying, is it for, what's the reason you're praying, and that actually made me feel that I'm always helpless in any situation, and I feel that I'm helpless a lot when we go out on books, because we really don't know what's the outcome, because everybody is we really don't know if they're going to take or not. So it makes me feel helpless. And I also noticed that when you pray in that mood, that way you're helpless, and Krishna actually answers every time. There hasn't been a single instance where you're really praying from your heart in that mood and Krishna never answered your prayer. So it's nice to clarify the mood.
Very nice, practical. It's interesting too that when you put yourself on the line for Krishna, it means that you pray more. It's one of the reasons we talk about why we should do book distribution. It's not for the numbers, it's not for anything else except for when we do, we feel ourselves helpless. It's one of the services where you don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, with cooking, that you might feel like that to some degree, but you have a pretty good idea if you follow the recipe. I mean, any service, you obviously can pray. Addressing the deity and so forth takes that kind of deep prayer. Please inspire me. Please be able that I can offer something nice to you, and that it will enliven the devotees and so forth. Sankirtan seems to have that unknown element also. You don't know who you're going to meet or what their reaction's going to be, so something there. Okay, Vrindavan, what do you got?
I want to pray because I am the servant of Krishna. Prayer of Prahlad Maharaj. I want to pray to Lord Jagannath at my home.
What a good idea and nice prayer.
Next page.
I want to get up early and chant.
Very good. Can that be full screen? Can that be full screen, Mo? You did good, Vrindavan. You can stay in the seminar. You're in. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just wrote to the first question, write some of your realizations about the importance of prayers. What I feel is prayers are music to soul. And by singing the prayers, I feel the extreme happiness within and helping me feel the existence of Supreme in everyone around me and treat them with the respect and a desire to serve.
With the first sentence, I really like that. Can you say that again?
Prayers are a music to soul.
Are what?
Music to soul.
That's really nice. Prayers are music to the soul. Boy, we could take that one away today for sure. Thank you. That was beautiful. Prayers are music for the soul. Is that right? Wow. Thank you for sharing with us. Krishna's brought us a gem.
So Prabhuji, I was just thinking that maybe we should be grateful because we pray and Krishna gives, but we really never take note of them. So I think if we take a gratitude journal and also review it at least once a week and then be grateful.
Take advantage of what?
The gratitude journal.
Gratitude journal.
We pray, and if it happens, like note it down and then be confident about the prayer, so that when we offer prayers, we don't be indifferent. Will not come up, that we'll have more faith.
Nice point. Not what have you done for me lately, right? Like sort of realizing, actually there's a state of complete gratitude, realizing that everything I'm made of, everything I have is Krishna's mercy and arrangement. Like, and offering it all to Krishna. It's very important to see what Krishna's already given us so much and is constantly giving. Even starting with our breath, our intelligence and everything.
Just wanted to add one more point, Prabhuji, because even these prayers, like sometimes it may take more time and we have to be focused and all that. But sometimes you're not at such a very high level to offer these prayers. But one prayer that I really think it will work is to go to a Vaishnava and offer and say what you have to say. And that really works. Means it's not like front of the deity or something. That I really want to thank Nirakula Mataji that she taught me real techniques, that it really works. And in moments. And it's especially Nirakula Mataji. She is more than my mother. Like, it's just whatever you have to do in front of Krishna, you do that. But she says like that, but whatever problems you have, when you tell it to a devotee, they take it on us and they pray for you, and Krishna hears that more than what when you pray. And she really brought me out from the ditch of material existence, and I'm eternally grateful for that.
Wow.
Thank you.
Now, I just have one question or prayer. Nirkula, can you help me with that too? I think you've been holding back. We'll talk later. Okay.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the realizations for the importance of prayers. And I think prayers is time that when you establish a connection with the Lord, and as I started listening that today's topic was about prayers, one thing about Radhanath Swami that came across that I was reading came to my mind was Radhanath Swami always says that when you pray, you're talking to the God, and when you meditate, you're listening to God. I like that. Thank you.
Very nice. Just the fact that you articulate those two things is a conscious and aware state that you're in, realizing that you're reciprocating with someone. Either you're expressing your heart, as you said, a song. It's a song to the soul or a song to the super soul. And meditation is kind of listening for the answer. Nice. Really nice. What else? Shakalila. I'd like to offer my gratitude to Shakalila for inspiring this seminar. I had forgotten that it was one of our goals to have this seminar, but she saw that, and she's behind the whole thing, putting together all the collaterals and the ideas and the research and everything like that. I'm just the front man.
Prabhu gave me all the notes, and I just, did that, and he is giving the credits to me.
I didn't give her anything.
One of the goals to add prayer to my daily life, the one that you actually mentioned during the Wednesday class, was about this devotee who writes a prayer every morning before japa, and then while chanting, he tries to meditate on that prayer. So that's something which I would like to try.
He puts it on the altar too. He puts it at the lotus feet of his deity. So I just noticed that, every day he had this little chit. He'd think about it, he'd fill it out, he'd put it on the deity's altar, right at his lotus feet, and then he'd start his japa. Very powerful. Yeah. Shamalangi.
I just added a goal today after hearing what Keshav Bharati Maharaj had advised, he suggested, so I'll add Gopinath to my daily schedule.
Yeah. And also residence somewhere. Be careful.
That will be probably the future. And one of the thing I highlighted in my notes is I liked it very much. Name is the ultimate prayer, what you said. That is the...
Yeah. The name is the ultimate prayer, the Hare Krishna mantra. My Lord, O energy of the Lord, please engage me in service. Now we have some text coming in. And by the way, for those of you who have joined us online today, if you'd like to text in, the number is 650-245-7018. Our operators are standing by to take your texts and calls.
Yeah, this is a text relating to one of the older topics, and this is Sri Krishna Purushottam Prabhu.
Sri Krishna Purushottam, Hare Krishna.
He says, I like this song by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Song name is Durlabh Manav. When my body will be thrown in the pit at the cremation grounds, it will simply lie there motionlessly. Then many crows, vultures, ants and worms will come and playfully sport there. This shows Bhakti Vinod Thakur's humility. I like it a lot. And then, therefore, I ask of anyone who has any sharp intelligence, please give up all these temporary illusions presented by Maya and kindly search after the means to get pure devotion to Lord Krishna, for this is the only really tangible eternal truth.
Wow, Sri Krishna Purushottam, thanks for bringing us that beautiful prayer. It reminds me of the prayer in the Sri Ishopanishad, second to the last. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices. And because you're the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I've done for you. His is so, it tends to sober the mind, doesn't it? That prayer from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, my body, dead body will be the playground for ants and worms. That'll get you serious in a hurry. Okay? Yes, Pooja?
So I was hearing memories from one of Prabhupada's disciples. I forgot his name. But he was saying that you can pray to Lord Nityananda for anything that is good, and he will give it to you for your spiritual life. And he was relating that he wanted to do personal service for Srila Prabhupada. So he prayed to Lord Nityananda for, I think, 3 weeks. And then Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, he said, no, you have an opportunity to serve Srila Prabhupada. And he used to serve Prabhupada very personally, take him for walks and drive him around. So he said praying to Lord Nityananda is very powerful. And in Vrindavan Das Thakur's prayers to Lord Nityananda, he said like Sarat Chandra Brantim, those prayers, he says that Lord Nityananda Prabhu says that just take to the chanting of the holy names, and I will be responsible for taking you back to Godhead out of this material world.
Really good points. Yeah. Okay, we'll take a few more. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Is your first time here to this temple?
Yeah, come. Pratibha's sister.
Sister, what's your name?
I'm Pooja, so I've come from Mumbai. Yeah,
from Mumbai. Let's welcome Pooja.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have any other siblings? Other siblings?
I have totally 4 other siblings. Yes.
Okay, bring everybody.
Actually, she got me powerfully and very powerfully into this, because she's going to get initiated by Giriraj Maharaj hopefully this year or maybe next year.
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So about 7 years ago, I was, of course, a little new to chanting. I was just chanting, and I had my own struggles. So I asked one of my god sister, and asked her to help me. And she told me that why don't you do you chant pranam mantras before starting your rounds? So I said no, and I started doing that very regularly, and I follow that till date. And I have seen that chanting the pranam mantras, the pranati mantras, and also the panchatattva maha mantra, it's very powerful. Before, specifically, it's like praying for the mercy and praying for their shelter to help you stay attentive and focused in your chanting. And I see that has helped me a lot, and that my chanting definitely has improved. I've become, trying hard to become more focused and attentive. Yeah.
Beautiful, very practical. Thank you very much, Pooja. While you were saying that, I was remembering one of my favorite prayers. May I say it? And it's always the happiest time of day for me when I say that prayer, but also I realize that saying the prayer before honoring prasadam helps me to remember that it is a gift, and that just by taking prasad we can conquer over the jada buddhi and over the tongue and all the indriyas. And it seems like such a gift, and it's such a joyful activity to be able to honor prasadam. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us all those prayers for honoring prasadam. So that's one I like very much. Damodar. Jagannath.
On the prayers, I was busy with kids' soccer games, but I was listening. So something which I try to do whenever I wanted to start my japa is Srinam Ashtakam. And the 7th verse is most appealing to me when it says that it's like the concentrated spiritual bliss. Like whenever I just think of it, sharbat, you're talking about you add 1 spoon of ruabza and the whole pot of ruabza is made. So it's like that. And it's the festival going on in Gokula, and the very form of Krishna. So it's in so precise, concise format. And whenever I think of these 3 things, my chanting is considerably improved, because I'm thinking, hey, this is the full essence, concentrate, and each word comes up like dance. It just then the consciousness just expands. Like Hare itself is like, when you hear it, it expands significantly. Not that every time that consciousness exists, but I found that very helpful, and those are the 8 verses are very, very dear. Yeah.
Thank you. Beautiful. When you were saying that, I was remembering the importance of following in the footsteps of the great devotees who have composed these prayers. And there's a way in which, while we say them, we remember that they wrote them in a certain mood in prayer to Krishna. And we can even visualize them sitting, writing, like Rupa Goswami gave us those Namashtakam prayers. He actually sat and composed them in a kind of samadhi. And it brings us closer to the person who actually composed the prayer as well, remembering them and their mood and so forth. We're actually taking shelter of them by offering the prayer. 2 more, yes?
One quick point that came to my mind is filling in the gaps that you always say, that printing out the prayers and carrying it around with them and filling in our gaps, it tremendously improves our focus throughout the day.
Anybody have them in their pocket right now? Okay, Mukaravind. He's got his shlokas in his pocket. In a little plastic bag. Anybody else? You got it? Shamalangi has. Yep, verified. Gandharvika? Nice to have, just as part of your apparel, when you're getting dressed in the day, you should have, as the paraphernalia. Isn't there regular stuff you put in your pockets? So always carry your shlokas with him. They have, there's power inherent in them, even if you carry them. But there's a way in which, I was at the bank yesterday. I had to go make a deposit. Good, right? And no, it was for ISV. It's even better. So I was standing in line at the bank, and there's always this feeling in the air that, won't they, they hurry up? The banks are so sterile also. Everyone's looking around for something to catch their eyes on. And I was the second in line, and I noticed the woman before me was really agitated because she was thinking, when are they going to open? And then one of them that was about to open closed, and you're like, oh no. But meanwhile, I just pulled my prayers out of my pocket, and I thought, okay, now you can take your time. And it is a good way to fill in the gaps. Always have them with you. Keep the vibration going. One more. Okay, Mukaravind.
You were mentioning today like how the aeroplane, that one incident, like how George Harishan he felt when he intends prayer. Similarly, we should always think that how we are in that same plane, we are going down and down, that feeling should be always there, and always meditating on that and keep your prayers. And that makes your prayers alive. If you just see that situation, yes, we are also in the same plane that is going down and down and down and down.
I think we should get that prayer from SKP, from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, about meditating on the body, being disposed of, and so forth. Very powerful. Okay. Yeah.
So there are like hundreds of prayers.
There are people on internet.
Okay. Question on prayers I have, like there are hundreds of prayers, and me just trying to learn, how do I know which prayers would suit me? Do I have to try all of them? Like I don't know, really? I mean, how do I know which prayers will suit me?
Well,
I don't know.
Just as far as preferences in devotional service, there's a way in which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur talks about incidental reading, and we should go through systematically in all the literatures. For instance, you should read the whole Bhagavad Gita, then read the whole Bhagavatam from beginning to end. And as you go through, you'll come to sections that specifically appeal to you or call to you in the situation you're in right now. And that might those might catch your attention, and then you can go back and concentrate on those more. That's one way. Another way is that when you are in certain kinds of association, it'll rub off on you. For instance, Brahma Samhita rubbed off on Shamalangi. She didn't know what the prayers were at first exactly or how to say them, but because she was coming to the Sangha on Saturday morning, they started to appeal to her, and now they're her favorite prayers. So as you associate with like-minded devotees who are saying certain prayers, they'll begin to appeal to you. And for instance, we like certain prayers because Prabhupada liked them. We heard Prabhupada quote and give extensive commentary on the prayers of Queen Kunti. And we have particular memories attached to that, to those times when he was speaking on them. And we still go back and watch the videos and so forth. And those can become favorites because of that. So there are many different ways, but there's no harm in any of them, actually. And sometimes when Prabhupada was asked his preference, someone would ask Prabhupada, where do you read from? How do you decide? There's so much. And Prabhupada said, it's like a sugar doll. I guess that's a name for like a candy, one of the candies. He said, wherever you taste it, it's sweet. So he said, I just open anywhere and begin reading. So that's also an option.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Because sometimes we get fixed on certain prayers and we'll forget about other ones. And if you go and explore, that's another thing you can do. Look into some of these prayers. But any way you do it, it'll be nice. Hare Krishna. So we've come to the end of our second day of the seminar, The Power of Prayer. And we've talked about some of the nuances and varieties of prayer that are offered by famous Vaishnavas. And we've also talked about realizations and some of the famous Vaishnavas who have offered prayers. And now we have homework. Take your goals that you've written down and practice praying. And then bring those back on Sunday. Because Sunday we'll have our final day on the power of prayer. Because this is an appealing kind of seminar, we'll probably do it again in various ways. We're considering doing it in a way that we can attract a wider audience and advertise it, even for those who might be interested. It's a universal thing, so prayers along with some group chanting and things like that we'll do in the future. This is the beginning point. And obviously we've just dipped in a little bit to this oceanic subject, and we'll continue to do so. Thank you very much. Vansha kalpatarubhascha kripasnabhevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. We thank all of our listeners and watchers online that have joined us today. We offer you our obeisances, and we'll pick this up very soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.